Now, change aspect in Indian society. There can be two type of factors, endogenous or orthogenetic, and exogenous. Yogendra Singh also talks about orthogenetic and heterogenetic changes in Indian tradition, right? So, in orthogenetic, that means within the system, right, within Indian society. So, within the system we can say Sanskritization. ये हम योगेंद्र सिंह की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम जनरल बात कर रहे हैं, but I am just giving you an idea that he also talks about the change aspect, right? When he wrote a very famous book, Modernization of Indian Tradition, काफ़ी famous book है. Okay, Sanskritization is one concept. What are the other? You can say this parochialization, universalization, है ना? Tribe caste continuum, modernization is also endogenous, isn't it? Tribe caste continuum, modernization, Sanskritization, and exogenous, that originate from outside the society. So, you can say westernization, your globalization, है ना, westernization, globalization, these are originating outside the society, ठीक है. So, both kind of changes can be there. Some scholars would like to put modernization both endogenous and exogenous, तो आप भी कर सकते हो चाहो तो, but Dubey says that modernization is endogenous, ठीक है, not exogenous. Okay. Indian society part is relatively easy, and if you talk about the case studies, so case studies में आपके पास जो case studies इतने scholars हैं with their traditional case studies, that is sufficient. Whatever you know in GS, right, whatever new case studies, some case studies I have shared on the group with the students जो course में थे सभी के साथ हमने share किया है. Still, if you need to refer, so 100 case studies हैं, right, that will be sufficient with modern, you can say contemporary statistics, बहुत है वो, right. Some statistics you just write that and that will be sufficient for you to handle these type of questions. When you talk about change, so that is necessary to show the change aspect, ठीक है. और statistics जो भी हो आपके पास अगर किसी aspect में that change because of this, so try to show that in the introduction itself so that it becomes visible, the contrast become very visible in the very beginning. Definition नीचे आ सकती है, but let us hit the chord that what examiner is want us from us, what the examiner wants from us, ठीक है. Just put it directly there, ठीक है. जब भी कोई क्वेश्चन ऐसा आता है जिसमें कि आपको कॉन्ट्रास्ट दिखाना है एंड यू हैव फोल्डर, यू हैव डेटा, गिव इट इन द बिगिनिंग, राइट. इफ दे आस्क अबाउट द सेफगार्ड्स, स्टार्ट विद द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल आर्टिकल, राइट. इफ दे आस्क अबाउट एनीथिंग, सो स्टैटिस्टिक्स को सबसे पहले दिखाओ, अगर बीच में कहीं दिखाते हो तो पुट इट इन द बॉक्स समवेयर, राइट. whatever case study you give, just highlight it, put it in the box, ठीक है. If I have to tell you that how you should devote your time, don't devote much time in collecting some contemporary data from the newspaper. It can be useful, but if I have to tell you that if you are getting 6.5 marks in a question, then it may give you just 0.5 marks, the contemporary data, but the amount of time that you are putting in for that is not justified, right? So whatever I have provided, that will be sufficient for you to handle those kind of questions, right? But still, whatever you are reading, you can use that in the conclusion, right? Your answer should have simplicity, प्रॉपर हेडिंग्स बनाओ, जहाँ जहाँ पे ग्राफिक डाल सकते हो डालो, बट ओवर भी नहीं करना किसी भी चीज़ को कि सिर्फ ग्राफिक डाल दिया, राइट? बिकॉज इट इज़ अ सब्जेक्टिव पेपर, सो डू present your answers in a proper format. Whatever I have told you, I have given some headings, right? So in these headings, either you write in the points or you write in the paragraphs. That is your you can say your own will. You can write small paragraphs, 2-3 लाइन का पैराग्राफ, वो एक तरह से एक पॉइंट ही बन जाता है, ठीक है? And avoid doing this kind of, because it doesn't look professional, ठीक है? ऐसा नहीं कि गलत है, but professional नहीं लगता है. If you want to give a point like this, so better make this kind of, that will look much better, right? ये बहुत सारे अगर लगे होते हैं पेपर में, तो it doesn't give a very good look, right? So make sure that presentable भी रहे आपका पेपर जो है, वो देखने में अच्छा भी लगे, थोड़ा सा एस्थेटिक सेंस भी होता है हल्का सा. इट इज़ नॉट दैट इम्पोर्टेंट एज योर कंटेंट इज अनडाउटेबली, बट स्टिल इफ यू कैन मेक सच अमेंड्स टू योर आंसर, व्हाई नॉट, राइट? एंड वी ऑल नो दैट एस्थेटिकली अगर कोई चीज़ अच्छी लग रही है तो पढ़ने का मन करता है. ओके, सो यू कैन डू दिस थिंग. टुमारो आई विल टॉक अबाउट tribals. In that we will talk about forest policies, we will talk about forest policy के बाद tribal administration की बात करेंगे, approaches to tribal, ठीक है, and ethnicity. 3-4 टॉपिक्स की हम बात करेंगे, ज़्यादा नहीं करेंगे, because instead of doing so many things we will concentrate on 2-3 टॉपिक्स, ठीक है, जो कि forest laws वाला, then tribal administration वाला, approaches वाला and ethnicity वाला. These 3-4 topics we will do tomorrow, and this will be, I think, that is sufficient for you to understand the idea. We have talked about basis. So in that, what should be the structure? We have discussed some brush up, because if I have discussed varnashrama, then purusharth automatically हो जाता है, rina automatically हो जाता है, karma theory we all know, right? Then if we talk about caste, so there is no meaning in talking about the theories of origin of caste. What is caste? What are the characteristics given by G.S. Gure, right? So that is not useful for us. What is the view of Louis Dumont on caste system? That becomes a little bit important, right? So what Louis Dumont says about the caste system. So Louis Dumont was a student of Levi-Strauss, right? So as Levi-Strauss applied the binary opposition concept, he also used the binary opposition between purity and pollution on caste system. That was one approach that he used. But Louis Dumont का काम इतना easy नहीं है. He used cultural approach. So there are some approaches to understand caste system. One of them was structural approach, as used by Louis Dumont, right? There is cultural approach. That means द कल्चर के जो पर्सपेक्टिव है उससे समझे. देयर इज इंडोलॉजिकल अप्रोच, स्क्रिप्चर्स में क्या लिखा है उसके पर्सपेक्टिव से समझना, ठीक है? सो स्ट्रक्चरल, इंडोलॉजिकल, cultural, these are 3 predominant approach, and Louis Dumont have applied all the 3 approaches, ठीक है, in study of the caste. When he talk about that human is homo hierarchicus, so उसने तीनों अप्लाई किया था. अगर मैं इंडोलॉजिकल व्यू के यूज़ करने वाला कोई आइसोलेटेड बंदे की बात करूं, देन वी कैन से G.S. घूरे यूज्ड इंडोलॉजिकल अप्रोच, ठीक है? G.S. घूरे यूज द इंडोलॉजिकल अप्रोच, जो स्क्रिप्चरल अप्रोच थी उससे बात की उन्होंने, ठीक है? इंडोलॉजी मतलब स्टडी ऑफ इंडियन टेक्स्ट, स्क्रिप्चर्स में क्या लिखा हुआ है, ठीक है? बट G.S. घूरे ऑल्सो यूज द कल्चरल अप्रोच. कल्चर के एस्पेक्ट्स को भी तो उन्होंने डिलिनेट किया, जब 6 कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स दिया तो कल्चरल अप्रोच भी यूज किया. सो the one big question arises that there are approaches to understand caste, but ऐसा कोई जरूरी नहीं है कि एक एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट को एक साइड से ब्रांड कर दें हम. Is it clear? It is not necessary that you just brand one scholar with one kind of idea. There can be approaches. There can be religious approach to understand caste system. There can be field approach, right? It is not necessary that fixed that book में 4 approach लिख के दिए तो मैं 4 तक रहूँगा. Field approach भी है ना, book view and field view. Aman Srinivas applied. Aman Srinivas also applied structural approach. Is it clear? So basically what I am trying to say that don't limit yourself कि book में 3 approach लिखी हुई हैं, that Indological approach, cultural approach, structural approach. So interactional approach of Singer is also there, that castes interact. Okay, isn't it? So don't restrict. Field approach आप use कर सकते हो, religious approach आप use कर सकते हो, ठीक है? Done? So this way just think a little bit broadly on these concepts, and for today we will wind up our session, and tomorrow we will talk about ट्राइबल वाले वो 3-4 टॉपिक्स पे बात करेंगे हम, ठीक है? रेस्ट those 300 plus questions and model answers that I have provided, you can refer to them. Okay, that will be sufficient for you to cover. I would say 90% of your syllabus will be covered in that only, right? Name is 300, but it has more than 300, right? So thank you for today. All the very best.